Our resident Bruce Springsteen authority, aficionado, and number one fan is good friend, a longtime friend, and for several years, broadcast partner, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, who joins tonight. Now, you've got a game tonight, so do you get Thanksgiving at home tomorrow?
Yes. The NBA never plays on Thanksgiving or Election Day, for that matter.
Yeah.
Or Christmas Eve. So I do a thing called Spurs Flashback, which is like this date in Spurs history.
Yeah.
And on December 24th, it's always a problem because there's never a game that day. So there's a former Spurs player that was born on Christmas Eve named Paul Pressey. You probably remember Paul Pressey. He played at Tulsa, and he was a longtime assistant in the NBA. Really one of the first point forwards in the NBA. Anyway, he was born on December 24th. So for the longest time, my Spurs flashback was born on this date, Paul Pressey, who played for the Spurs. So there was no games to call on December 24th.
On December 24th, 2009, I was on a plane with the Spurs. We were on our way to L.A. to play the Lakers on Christmas Day. I mean, that would probably be because you've had a lot of Christmas Day calls. I know that.
Yeah, not lately, to be honest with you. The last one, LaMarcus Aldridge was the star the last time we had a Christmas Day game. That was back in 2016, so it's been a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So last night, nice trip to Salt Lake. And the win over the Jazz. Hey, is there a lot of Utah Hockey Club merch on sale there at the Delta Center?
Yeah, and as you know, Craig, my son Eric is a meteorologist and has been for the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City, and he's gone to several games. And he really loves it. So, and the cool thing is our hockey broadcast is located the same area where the basketball broadcast is. It's really good for hockey, not so much for basketball. A little high up for basketball, but for hockey, it's perfect.
As they would say, the hockey box, right?
Yes, the hockey box, yeah.
And our good friend and former colleague working with me, and she also worked at Chaos, Sarah Merrifield, works on their telecasts.
Nice. Yeah, very good. And, Thurl Bailey, of course, an NC State guy. I know you're more of a Carolina Tar Heel fan, but Thurl's a great guy, and he's their color analyst on TV.
Yeah. I remember Thurl vividly from the Jim Valvano cardiac pack team in 1983, and that's a great 30 for 30.
Oh, by the way, since we're speaking about North Carolina, Danny Green pinch hit for Sean Elliott on the telecast last night. And, of course, Danny, an 09 champion with the Tar Heels and a three-time NBA champion, and, of course, played for the Spurs for 7 years. And he's going to be very successful, Craig, in the business. Very smart, very funny. And, he's got a lot of connections. Danny's going to do very well in the business.
Yeah, I totally agree. That dude's star is on the rise. When I heard he was retiring, I thought, TV's going to be his deal. He's just good.
Yeah, he was my pregame guest last night. It was never a problem. And in fact, he thanked me for all the pregame and postgame interviews I did with him, saying that it prepped him for this opportunity. But he's just a natural. He'll be fine.
All right. So what's your take right now? We talked a few weeks back before the start of the season, but how about your take on this Spurs team? 10-8 right now, 2-5 away, and back home tonight against the Lakers. They're continuing to grow and show some things.
Well, the important thing, I think, is the knowledge that veterans bring. Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul have really made a lot of difference. They know how to win now in the fourth quarter because Chris Paul's been doing it for 20 years. Harrison Barnes, believe it or not, was the NBA Player of the Week this week. The first time he's gotten that award, the longest tenured player to ever win that award for the first time, 13 years in. But a real good, he's just been a Spur his whole career, even though he hasn't been on the Spurs. He's just that kind of guy. I've always loved Harrison Barnes, a great guy to go interview and chat it up with. And I'm really happy that he's part of the team. And the experience that those guys bring and the professionalism that they bring, I think it can't be understated because these young guys learn how to win, learn how to be pros when they're around people like that.
Bill, what have you made of Wembenyama's second season and specifically how he's grown offensively?
Yeah, he's really shooting the three a lot more. And early, he wasn't hitting them very often. In fact, he's at 22% for a while. And people are like, wait a minute, why is he out there shooting threes? Well, it's all part of his package. He wants to be a perimeter player as well as an inside player. We've never seen a player quite like this. But now he's really getting the rhythm now. He's really hitting the threes on a regular basis, and he's piling up the points. He had 34 points last night. And I think the fact that he's a threat out there, a guy like Walker Kessler, who's really more of an inside defender, really not comfortable going out there and guarding a 7'4" guy on the perimeter. So I think that he does a lot of things that are very different, and we're going to continue to see him evolve as a player. Remember, he is only early in his second season. Last night, he had his 14th 30-point game. if you can imagine that. So he's doing some things early in his career that he's really building upon. And I think he's really benefiting from the presence of Chris Paul because CP3, as I mentioned, knows how to win the games in the fourth quarter. That was a problem for the Spurs. They were very competitive over the last couple of years, but they weren't closing out games in the fourth quarter. But when you have a presence like Chris Paul and also Harrison Barnes, it's much easier to win because those guys have been there.
4-game winning streak. I think it's the longest since 2020-21 for the Spurs. And during this 4-game win streak, you've beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder at home, in which Wemby did not play, and then a win over the Warriors, two of the top teams in the Western Conference, two of the best teams in the Western Conference. What have you made of this 4-game win streak?
I think the Warriors win showed that they've really improved defensively. This Steph Castle kid was all over Steph Curry in that game. In fact, my marquee matchup going into the game was Steph versus Steph, and I'm thinking, well, this is going to be a baptism by fire for Castle. Steph Curry went 5 for 16 that night, guys. Now, that's not to say that every time Steph Castle goes up against Steph Curry, that's going to be the result. But for the first time to go up against him and really be in a competitive situation, the Spurs held the Warriors to 13 points in the fourth quarter of that ball game, which was a tight game, and they pulled away late. So I think that they took a step forward defensively. They're now in the top 5 in both field goal percentage defense and points allowed. They were in the bottom third of the league in those categories last year, so they certainly have taken a step forward. And a lot of this is without one of their best defenders, Jeremy Sohan, who's been out with a broken thumb.
All right. You knew this question was going to come, Bill, on our text line. Somebody asked, please ask Bill how he feels about the work so far in the development of, I'm going to attempt his name, Sandru, is it Mamu Kalashvili?
Craig, you are so good at names. It's really easy. It's Mamu Kalashvili. And he's a player from the Republic of Georgia. He played at Seton Hall. He played all 4 years at Seton Hall. So he's kind of a seasoned guy. He's 24, 25 years old now. But he's a very fun player to cover because he's like a guy who never stops offensively. He just is all over the place, moves very well without the ball. He shoots the ball well. He's not a great defensive player, but he's earning his minutes because of what he can do offensively. He's a real energy guy. I think Wemby really likes playing with him because he just opens up the floor with Wemby because he takes up so much space by moving around so much. But he's a ball of energy, and in spurts, he really helps this team.
What's your take on this Lakers team? I saw Kevin Durant returned last night, had a KD-like game, and they kind of pushed in the second half and pulled away from the Lakers. Now you got the Lakers coming in tonight. They're such a curiosity other than LeBron in looking at this team, aren't they?
Yeah, the thing that really concerns me if I'm a Lakers fan is overall depth. Because Anthony Davis, as great as he is, he's had some health problems. LeBron, of course, just is nonstop, but he's still playing well over 30 minutes a game. And that concerns me, even at his age, and even though he's in great shape, I just don't love to see a lot of heavy minutes by guys at that age. So the lack of depth, I think, overall would concern me as far as the Lakers' chances to, get to the finals.
All right. So Bill Schoening, the voice of the Spurs, has been with us. We've talked some Spurs. I'm going to set that aside now. You and I are going to share some memories here because we did 10 football and 9 basketball seasons together.
We sure did, yeah.
And we did our share of Thanksgiving and Black Friday games. Now, first of all, from the Black Friday perspective, there's obviously the Ricky Williams game, and we had Ricky on. Ricky actually came out to Pluckers a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, he was in town partially for this documentary. And again, for folks, if they go to the Longhorn Network app, it premiered today. This return of the rivalry restored, I think it's called, and they interviewed a lot of us, but Ricky's got some great stuff in there and talking about that game, and there's great stuff with Mac Brown talking about that game, and Ricky was talking about. So I know we went into that game. It was kind of in the honeymoon period for Mac there that first season in '98, and we went into that thinking, hey, he's got a chance 62 yards away, break through. We didn't think he would get it on, most of it on that one carry that got him over the top.
Well, that was a really good Aggie defense too, right? Wasn't that
yes.
win? And I don't know, I guess maybe that was the latter stage of the Wrecking Crew. I guess the Wrecking Crew was actually kind of earlier than that. But that was a very good A&M defense that Ricky ran through. But, that was common that year. Remember the game at Nebraska, Craig? Nebraska at home had not given up 100 yards to a single back since Barry Sanders, I believe, and Oklahoma State 10 years earlier. Right. So, Ricky had those kinds of games against great defenses. And I think one of the things that gets lost, too, and Ricky was a great player, but those guys up front, that offensive line, they were so much fun to cover. they were so smart. Guys like Octavius Bishop and Dan Neal, John Elmore, Jay Humphreys.
Ben
man,
Adams.
that's a really good offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so correct me if I'm misremembering this. Year before, 97, it turns out to be John Malkovich's final game. We go over the night before. We were staying at the fashionable Ramada Inn, the infamous one in 99 where the team stayed, where there was no breakfast for them, and the wake-up calls went all night long. But
no Four Seasons in College Station, Craig.
No, that's true. And weren't we eating like at a Bennigan's with our producer, the late Bill Harwell, and Greg Klingensmith? We had our broadcast crew with us.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and Arlene Malkovich walked in with the other coaches' wives, and I looked over, and I can't believe I actually let it come out of my mouth. And I said, "Look at that, the Last Supper." and it happened there. But what I was going to say was the next day we had the game, and we had the parabolic mic down there, and then going over there. I believe John Medani was on the side. Well, we might have had Lawrence Sambleton back from his overseas recruiting trips by then. And it walks out there to midfield, and they flip the coin, and the Aggies win the toss. And whoever the Aggie captain was said, "We'll defer." And if I remember correctly, clear as day on our microphones was James Brown going, "Defer? Is that the best you can do?" Am I right? Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah. I remember that. It's so many things you remember about the rivalry. And of course, I remember a lot about the bonfire. It's hard to believe that they just had the 25th anniversary of it, right? So I remember, it's weird the things you remember about certain things, but I remember several Aggie fans coming up to me saying that they'd never feel the same way about Texas because of the love and the compassion that Mac Brown and the Longhorns showed to the Aggies during that very dark period of time back in '99. So I'll always remember that. I also remember too, and this is the music part of me, Doug Somm from the Texas Tornadoes, who I think is one of the great Texas music heroes, died right around that same time, like maybe the next day. And because of all the attention being paid to the Aggie bonfire, I really kind of feel like Doug Somm's death, he died of a heart attack in Santa Fe while he was out on the road. It just kind of gets swept under the rug, So the music part of me, like, oh man, it's a shame that Doug Somm didn't get more love when he passed away.
No doubt about that. All right, so help me out on this one now, because on our text line, what I offered up to Cowboy fans or people just remembering, I said, let me know your most vivid Dallas Cowboys memory. Mm-hmm. And somebody said, my most vivid Cowboys Thanksgiving memory, and that's what I'm talking about, your most vivid Cowboys Thanksgiving memory. 1993 in the snow, Leon Lett. Yep. I remember that game because of snow in Dallas, major ice storm in Austin. That Thanksgiving, one of the coldest Thanksgivings I ever experienced ever from NCB.
Well, were we in College Station that night?
We were. And the first 5 years when I worked with you, I've commuted for all the football and men's basketball games. I was still working at KRLD in Dallas.
Right.
So I drive down there and kind of the icy, slippery sliding around the traffic circle in Mahia on the way down there. And if I remember correctly, that this was a ball game that was 15-9 A&M in the fourth quarter. A&M, whoever won was going to go to the Cotton Bowl. The Longhorns were 5-4-1 going into the game. And the Aggies were like 9-1 or something. And A&M was up 15-9, and they were punting pretty late in the game. And it wasn't Shane Leckler, but I can't remember who the punter was. But it was a bad snap, but he picked it up in plenty of time. And then he just kind of froze. He didn't do anything. And then he got crushed by Longhorn and gave him good field position. And I actually said on the air, and I said, I don't understand it. You called the play, and I said, I don't understand it. I mean, he had plenty of time. And the only thing I can come up with is he's an Aggie or something like that. And I got some emails about that. But
we weren't doing the talk show at the time, were we?
No, I was.
I was, and there were some Aggies in Austin who were calling me on my talk show and complaining about you. I just want you to know that. I took some bullets for you, Craig.
Oh well, it's worked both ways. And that was a game that went down into the final minutes, and Shea Morenz on the rollout had a guy open and threw it and got intercepted in the end zone. The Aggies ended up winning, I think 18-9. They tacked on a field goal.
Kind of fitting ending.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then the next year, 94, and it was 30 years ago, John Malkovich saying, "We will not kick off to Leland McElroy." They kicked off to Leland McElroy, and he brought it back for a touchdown.
He's still going.
Yeah.
He's in Caldwell now. He's still running.
That's right. He's still running. And then the one other one that comes to mind is the very next year was 1995. Now, that was not Thanksgiving. It moved in. It was that final game in Southwest Conference history. Mm-hmm. Texas and Texas A&M.
16-6.
16-6. Very good. You remember that? You remember? And James Brown had a badly sprained ankle. Yeah. And Ricky went for like 165 in that game.
And if I'm mistaken, Craig, correct me, but was that not the last game on the turf and they were going to put grass in? Yes. Or was it the last game on the grass? They're going to put turf in.
No. You had it right the first time. It was on the carpet.
Okay.
And so it was over and they were going to tear it up. Well, Longhorn fans and cheerleaders run onto the field in celebration. And the Aggie Corps got really upset with that. They didn't draw swords like they did on the SMU cheerleader back in 80.
No.
But there was so we could see it from up top. There was some punching of some guys and grabbing girls by the hair. And it was just crazy. And then security came in and tried to break it up. And the Corps guys were still doing that. And I think I referred to it as paramilitarism run amok on that deal. But the point about all of this is that this rivalry, which is being renewed on Saturday night in College Station, you got a chance to experience it even from the other side. One season as an Aggie baseball broadcaster, so you know how they feel about all this.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a real break for me to do Aggie baseball. I was doing Sam Houston State, and I got a chance to go over and do the Aggies. And that's when they had a great team in '89 with Chuck Knobloch and John Byington and those guys. So I got to see that, and I actually applied for the Aggie play-by-play job and didn't get it. And Craig, it was a blessing. It really was, because I ended up in Austin a couple months later at KLBJ. And, of course, that started my time with the Longhorns. And, of course, you came in. So, sometimes when you really wish for something and it doesn't work out, it works out better. And that's exactly what happened with me. No offense to any of my A&M friends or College Station friends, but, it couldn't have worked out better for me as I ended up in Austin.
Yeah, and I've learned lessons over the years and have lots of friends over in the Brazos Valley. And so I've learned to appreciate their passion for the rivalry and everything as well.
In fact, Andrew Monaco, Craig, as you know, the radio guy now who got that job in 2018, used to work for the Spurs. We worked together for a number of years, and really a really good guy. And I'm really happy he's in that position because he's perfect for that job. He's a real loyal, passionate guy, good play-by-play guy, and a perfect fit for them.
Yep, I had him on the show on Monday, and yesterday he's out in Vegas, and so we had a lot of fun talking about all that. Hey, it's always good to visit with you. I'm glad you get to have Thanksgiving at home with Jerry and Carl, and best wishes also to Eric out in Salt Lake. And I know we'll catch up again on down the road. I appreciate it.
Same to you, Craig. I've been trying to get you and Linda to dinner, but it's impossible with our schedules right now. So it will happen one day. It'll happen.
It will definitely happen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right. You got it.
That's Bill Schoening, the Spurs play-by-play.